The following is brought to you by our friends over at Actable. Actable gives you the power to profit. Please check them out at actable.com and enjoy today's show. Hey, Anthony, it is so great to see you on another episode here of No Vacancy. What's going on with you?
Is that what this is? I thought we were having coffee. I thought we were going to Vegas. No? What are we doing?
Maybe we're on a plane to Vegas right now. You never know, but there's always a good chance of that.
You might have been in Vegas more than me. No,
I got a couple more trips coming up, it looks like, right now, too, including an extended stay in December. But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that another time. Anthony, you know, I've been traveling a lot, and everywhere I go, people are like, gosh darn, Glenn, you are traveling a lot. No, not compared to the guest that we have on today. We've got on the incredible Kate Buhler. She's a consultant and author and has worked with some of the leading brands that you and I all know and aspire to stay at. Kate, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
So I have to get this out right away. How often do you get Buhler?
I do. I get it a lot, especially in airports. They'll announce my name, and then I hear people chanting Buhler, Buhler as I run towards my gate. So
yeah. Sorry, one of my favorite movies of all time. Right there. So Anthony, so she works with some of these amazing, incredible brands out there, trying to help, I guess, craft the people that are crafting experiences. Kate, you've been at this a long time. You got this book, Inhospitable, Lessons Learned from a Lifetime of Service. What's going on? What's good? What does good service mean? What's bad service?
Give us the elevator pitch about your business.
Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely, gentlemen. Happy to give you the elevator pitch. So,
not like my elevator experience that I recently had where I got stuck for 45 minutes.
Maybe
from here, Glenn.
Maybe that was fun. If you're stuck with the right people, it's okay.
Unfortunately, my company was horrible. I was
unfortunate. You're right. So the elevator pitch of what I do. I used to work for a long time in luxury hotels like you all did. And I cared very much about the guest.
Just to be clear, I never worked in luxury hotels. I've occasionally stood outside of them.
Did you care about the guest when you
always do?
Cared about the guest? Yes, me too. But then at one point, I realized that I still cared about the guest, but I cared about the employees more. And I wanted an opportunity to help employees do a better job, not just for their property, but also for themselves, to understand what they do, to understand what's important and what a crucial role a person plays. You know, you can stay in the most beautiful hotels in the world, but you will forget the hotel. You won't forget what somebody says to you. You won't forget how someone treats you. So since 2011, I have been traveling around the world, working with some of the great hotels in the world, working with the managers and the employees on creating better experiences and just knowing their own self-worth.
So what have you noticed in the difference in that level of hotel from 2011 to 2025?
Huge difference. Thank you for asking. I will say that there's half as much staff for the most part as there used to be. I will say that everyone is combining jobs because of technology, right? That is 90% of the changes that I see. And then there's just generational changes where people, for example, luxury hotels tend to have, not all, but tend to have older client bases. But the people working in hotels are almost always younger. They need a lot of energy, but they're not used to talking on the telephone, or they're not used to being told to text in full sentences. So we work with a generation gap, a technology gap. And really the luxury hotels that are working well are finding ways of working around these issues.
So let's just break it down to one element. When we were growing up in this industry, we had a proving ground because you couldn't just go online and find a job. So your life, your air, your oxygen depended on that job in that beautiful hotel and getting promoted to make more money. And then eventually you can get another job because people hear about you. So you had to prove yourself, right? I've been doing this 40 years, okay? literally. And I always felt early on, I had, up and probably very recently, that I had to prove myself. Do you find that the younger generation, forget about the tech gap and forget about not being able to talk on the phone, but it comes down to, they feel like they have to prove themselves, or do we as an organization have to prove ourselves to them?
So that's an interesting take on it. I will say that we are having to prove ourselves to them more often. A lot of people take hospitality jobs as a stepping stone, can't get a job, in their field, their chosen field when they first graduate. I personally can tell you I fell backwards into hotels. It wasn't my plan, but I fell in love with the business. I think that it is actually, though, more difficult nowadays than it was when you and I were coming up. In the 90s, we had a very different situation than they have now. So I think a lot of people leave the industry, hence the title of my book, Inhospitable, because it's not that easy anymore to prove yourself and move up, as you said.
Yeah, and I see it every day that it's guest service, but the asset managers are running the properties.
Yes.
That's it. And I don't care what anybody says. As I say, come at me, because I got the receipts. Asset managers on these big properties are running these hotels. And the good GMs that are old school GMs, and old school doesn't mean you have to be my age, but old school meaning, hey, get out of my way and I'll prove to you, I'll make your budgets, I'll make your numbers. You can't have it both, in my opinion. You can't have it both ways. You can't control a really good general manager to the point where they can't be creative and also get the numbers. So I see your point.
I also think that the people who hire me are the people who want to see a balance of both sales and service. So there was a time when I was working for a large company that really checks the service of properties. But what matters to me is, are the employees doing well with their service, obviously, but then are they also making that property as profitable as they can? So sales in an elegant way that's not pushy is an art that I teach employees, because you're right, hotels are so expensive to run nowadays. That's why asset companies really have their hands in, right?
So give me one element. I won't say secret, because we all say there's no secrets, but there are secrets. One element of a way to sell elegantly, as you say.
Sure, absolutely. When a waiter comes up to your table and they've already established your drink order and they're going to take your order, it's something so subtle as they can say, do you have any questions on the menu? What would you like to order? They can do that. But I would rather they say, do you have any questions on the menu? What would you like to start with? Okay. And it's the tone of what would you like to start with, not any starters, anybody? Hey guys, do you want to share some apps? Right? That is luxury.
I feel like if you say you want to share some apps to kids, they'll just pull out their phones and start,
No, but I love that. So I'm glad you said that, because, some people think, and sometimes I'm in that, some people, that you really can't train that level of service unless you really have it in you. But you can train that question, that, like, hey, what can I get you started with? Or however you said it. Like, and again, all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, do you want appetizers? Like, maybe I'm always thinking about appetizers, but maybe some people aren't.
Well, and I teach them also, because I do, another part of my services is I do a revenue management analysis. I pull all of the servers' sales and their covers, and I show them, this is how much your average check is per guest. If you sold one extra item, let's say at lunchtime for $20, this is what your sales would have been.
Right.
And when they see what they leave on the table, first of all, the restaurant sees what they leave on the table in revenue, but the servers see what they leave on the table in tips. If you're in the US, they look me in the eyes.
Do you look at the tip differential and say, listen, this group is getting this and this group is getting this, and it's just simply a service level.
Yes. And I can even show it by server. I can say, Anthony, your average check is $40 at lunch, and Glenn's average check is $60. For the 10,000 people that you served this year, this is how much money you left on the table. And sometimes it's $20,000, $30,000 in tips.
Yeah, and it's real money. In these 5-star hotels, it's real money. I mean, you can make easily 100, 200 grand a year serving. And my daughter is a bartender, putting herself through her master's degree.
Nice.
And the other day she goes, Dad, I was bartending and I made $48 on this check, and they left me $50. I was like, they're cheap. She goes, no, they left me $50.
Yeah, exactly. And I see this all the time. And in a way, in the U.S. anyway, I just came from Dubai last week, but in the U.S. I can say it's the velvet handcuffs in that if your daughter finishes school, and I don't know what she's majoring in, but if she decided, I want to be a hotel manager, she's going to expect a 75% pay cut when she starts off as a manager. So I wrote about in my book that I was clearing $100,000 as a server in a luxury hotel in 1990.
Woo!
Yep, that was $260,000 by today's money.
Yeah.
And then I got a promotion, air quote promotion, because I wanted to be a manager. Mm-hmm. And my initial salary was $25,000.
Yeah. Right. It's the same dealers and pit bosses too.
Yeah, exactly. I train pit bosses. I work with pit bosses a lot. And I will say, because I work with a luxury company in Las Vegas area, and I will say that the amount of games that they're watching, right, a day, it's easier to be a dealer, correct? So dealers are watching one game, and then you've got your supervisors watching 6 games at a time. Then you've got your pit bosses watching 6 supervisors. I mean, exponentially, the stress on these people. I train them in customer service. I also train them in customer management, because those can be some pretty tough customers with a very high stake. People will say, the way your dealer dealt the hand, it made me lose my life savings. That's not an unusual thing for someone to say. Right. So mentally, you have to be ready for that.
Well, I have an answer for that person.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not the dealer's fault. Why's your life savings at the table? But I was just at the Wynn Hotel in Vegas celebrating a birthday, and there was a waitress serving our table, and a server, and she was just the highest level, like just lights out. Like, I just wanted to talk to her and like learn why she loved this business. And again, she was in college. She was going to be a doctor or something. And I said, you're at a different level. This is a profession for you. Why do you do it? She said, the money's insane. She goes, if I tell you how much I make, I said, I know how much you make. I've been doing this for 40 years. And she says, I leave my shift, and the only thing I have to worry about is when they come in that I'm on time and that I memorize the specials. The manager, who doesn't make as much money as I do, potentially, has all this other stuff to worry about.
Right.
And that's one of the things I literally lose my breath over. It's like, go into this business. I'm the only 7-year-old that wanted to be a GM of the Plaza Hotel, and I've always wanted to be in this business. And once I got in this business, it's like, oh my God, people say, you can't make money in the hotel business. I said, man, I go to these conferences, I can't reach my hand out without hitting a millionaire in the head.
That's right.
You make money in this business if you work your butt off. Who doesn't work their butt off today?
Right. But wouldn't you say there's a between? The problem is this, it's sort of like when you are working at that caliber of casino and making that kind of money. And let's say she's amazing. If she really works her butt off, she's still looking at 10, 15 years of making no money before she does get to that other peak, right? Which is the top of the food chain for management. Mm-hmm. So what I really am maybe sounding the alarm for and asking everyone to pay attention to is the managers need more care. I pay attention to them.
Yep.
Well, I pay attention to them and listen to them and try to make them feel valued, because they're the future leaders of our business. And if you make it too miserable, And from what I've seen, it is more miserable than it was when you and I were coming up.
Yeah, you know what? I wish I was there. I'd give you a big hug because the people that made it through, it was tougher because people were more direct and angry when I was
That's the
growing
truth.
up. Like
Yes.
I literally got threatened. Okay,
Same.
so you had to be insane to make it through. Like we called the plaza for a reason, right? You had to make it through, and a lot of us fell off.
Right.
I'm crazier than most, so I love the pain. I'm like, give me more, right? So if you told me how to work 18 hours, I probably didn't leave for 22 hours.
Correct.
And the more pain you gave me, the more I wanted. However, today, I don't think I'd survive because people are nicer, but they want me to do everything I did for customer service, want me to be creative, want me to take care of my people, but they also want me to be the accountant, the asset manager, the marketer. They want me to do everything, plus do the service and the schedule and the budget. And I've seen throughout my career in the last couple of years, going throughout this great country and the world, that people are nicer, but it's almost they're passive aggressive.
Right.
Whereas when I was growing up, there was no passive aggressive; it was just aggressive.
Just aggressive, yes. People are, I would say, and I'll tell you what I exactly think has been the worst passion killer of service. I'll tell you in a second. But I think that people are more politically correct nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that is good. But unfortunately, a lot of people are not given any freedom and then turn around and everything's their fault.
Yep, passive aggressive. The managers are passive aggressive.
I think the biggest, most horrible detriment to our business, it's a development, and I understand why people love it. And so I'll get big hate for this. When you and I were coming up, you used to work as a line staff employee. You would work 40-hour weeks. And sometimes you were really busy. And sometimes I could talk to you and say, that customer is weird, right? What do you think about this? I said this and this happened. What do you think? Nowadays, they have all of these softwares that will tell you exactly how many servers you need or exactly how many housekeepers you need for exactly as many hours. And what ends up happening is no one gets to know each other. The only time you're on that floor is when you're slammed. And then as soon as it's not crazy busy, you're going to get sent home. So the money's not necessarily as great as people would think. And not only that, you're always running short-staffed. You don't have a chance to learn anything. I think, and I understand why they do it. I totally get it. Don't come at me. But I know it is so that they can save labor, but you're losing service.
Asset managers run this industry today, and that's just the way it is because it's such an expensive industry to run. And one of the things I fight for is I'll give you an example. I was reading a resume for this kid I mentor, and I was like, take it back and put something creative that you've done, because everything on here seems like you're a robot. You are very impressive. Everything you did was insanely impressive. There's not one creative thing on this resume. You didn't create anything. You didn't implement anything. You didn't. What do you stand for? You took the glass and took it from the left side of the desk and put it on the right side of the desk. Congratulations. And you did it quickly. And you did it the way people wanted you to do. Congratulations. I don't hire people that way. Right. I want to hire people that I can literally throw the building on and they'll figure it out.
So it's fear that keeps people from trying to be creative, because if you fail, you're out.
Yep.
But I will say, I say the same thing. And I say, isn't it crazy? We couldn't make this up, right? But right now with AI and a lot of new systems coming into play, at the very moment that we are competing against the robots, and robots are getting to sound more and more like human beings, people are acting more and more like robots. So you cannot, you will never outwork a robot. You will never be more accurate than a robot. However, what can you bring to the table that's different? And I always say, when you leave this place, what people will want to remember is, what did you bring? What changes did you implement? What did you do that's new? Room reservation sales agents are almost disappearing, even in luxury properties in the States. And every single one of those, ladies and gentlemen, are worth $2 million a year, sometimes more.
Wow.
They book at a $200 in the luxury sector, $200 higher average rate than any computer does. But we're getting rid of them because they're expensive and they call in sick and they need to, they need to have a vacation, and the robot doesn't. So I want to bring a little bit of humanity back to service. And I don't mind if there's less bodies than there used to be. I mean, I remember when the fax machine was exciting. So I get it. There will be less bodies right now.
Yep.
But I want those bodies to get paid well and be really well trained and be really fun. If they're going to sit in the lobby to talk to guests, they better have something great to say.
Yeah. Kate, I preach what you're talking about constantly in keynote speeches right here on No Vacancy and elsewhere. And I'm hoping that hoteliers are going to choose to use technology and AI-empowered technology in order to get rid of the stuff that's not guest-facing or interesting.
Sure.
And it allows us, again, to be people with people. But my fear is that it's going to be asset managers saving money and cutbacks. Where do you stand on this particular issue? And how do you think we could, if you think it's going to be negative, how do we get out of it before it's too late?
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic new tool. To your point, Glenn, I heard a really interesting I heard a really interesting quote where someone said, I want AI to wash my dishes and make my bed so that I'm free to write poetry.
Right.
But unfortunately, so far, we haven't figured out yet. It's not that it's a bad tool. We haven't figured out yet how to use it properly. So I don't want an AI concierge. I just don't. I'll have one actually. If I'm not paying very much, it's fine.
Right.
But when I pay a lot of money, I want to have somebody have a creative idea. So when I was testing a luxury property in Miami, and I threw them what I thought was a real low ball. I went to the concierge desk and I said, there's 2 contemporary art museums, which do you recommend I go to? And he said, well, let's take a look on Google and see. And I thought, oh my gosh, first of all, I've been to both of them. I could have told him. But the problem is, if he's doing that, that guy is talking himself out of a job.
Yeah.
I could have done that in my room.
Exactly.
Because where's the added value? Now, I understand utilizing AI as a tool to help inform the person so they can then interact with you and be creative.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. If AI wants to handle my billing, that's fine.
I was at a hotel in Miami, one of the best hotels in Miami. And I went up I checked in and I went to the restaurant to see the hours. And I asked the young lady, what are the hours of the restaurant? And she goes, I don't know. I just started. The client was paying probably $1,200 to have me in that hotel.
Right.
Okay, for a night. And you couldn't tell me what time breakfast was?
Right.
I don't care if it's your first day.
Exactly.
It's like, when you go into a property like that, it's, I always say, if a Navy SEAL on his first day has got to make the decision of a guy who's been a Navy SEAL for 20 years. Mm-hmm. Once you play in the big leagues, I used to say on my show, when you're on our set, you're in the big leagues. They press a button in 100 countries, millions of people see us. We're in the big leagues.
Right.
If you're standing on the floor of a restaurant where they just spent $1 billion to build that building and you don't know what time breakfast opens, you should go back to the small leagues.
So first of all, you two and I speak the same language, but here's the thing: if you're a Navy SEAL on your first day, I'm guessing that you've had a lot of training. Yeah. And if you are a hostess on your first day, I'm guessing they chucked her out there and said, just stand there and look pretty.
Yeah.
And that drives me crazy. I had the same exact thing happen in Vegas recently. I said, is that salad bar restaurant, is that open today? She said, I don't know, I'm new. I said, oh, I'll tell you what, I'll go, I'll find out and I'll let you know. And like, who's working for who?
Was the irony lost on her?
But
it was completely lost on her, Glenn. Yeah. She just blinked at me. Yes.
Yeah. You know this more than anybody. What is the first thing to go when people do cutbacks in hotels?
Great. Concierges, first thing to go. And then if you want to charge, it's fine. If you're $100 a night, do your thing. But if you're going to charge $1,200, $2,000, I just came from a place that's a lot more expensive than that in Dubai, bring it. So concierges get cut, room reservations get cut.
Training gets cut.
Training, very good, gets cut all around. You're right. That's actually really the first thing to go.
I always say if I'm in a limited service hotel, I'm the greatest customer in the world. You don't hear from me. The safety fall out. I don't care. I go to a 5-star hotel. You better be ready, because I'm not a complainer, but what you want, and I hate friction free. I hate that terminology, but it's friction free. I want everything to be friction free. If I touch an iPad in the room, it better work.
That's right.
I was staying at the Wynn, and that iPad worked.
It's great.
The shades, the TV.
It's beautiful.
Room service, everything was like instant. I was like, yes. Now, when I went down to the front desk and wanted to talk to somebody, they were amazing. But when I'm in my room, I particularly don't want to get on the phone. Right? I don't want to get out of my bed to do it. But so many times I go in these hotels and the iPads don't work.
Yes.
Or you go to the wall. You've seen this a million times, and you need a PhD from MIT to use the friggin' system in the room.
Well, and so here's where technology, Glenn, to your point, is really useful. Is when you have an intuitive iPad.
Yep.
And you can do anything you need to from the comfort of your bedside. I love that too. And Peninsula, Wynn, these are companies that do it better than anybody. I did it was quite a long time ago, 15 years ago maybe. I was working with a hotel that was installing the first ever iPads next to your bed to order room service. And I did an experiment, gentlemen. The revenue manager geek in me comes out. It was called Man versus the Machine. I wanted to see, would the 8 Hawaiian order taker in room service, or would the iPad have the higher average check? And in the beginning, the order takers had the higher average check every time. They were adorable. They loved to sell. They were on commission. They were experienced. Then I came back about 6 months later, and the iPad started winning every time. And so I wanted to know what the difference was. Well, the iPad got a new version where it would pop up and say, what would you like to drink with that? Would you also like dessert? Here's pictures of all the desserts. And they were doing the exact same thing that the order takers were doing verbally. But the order takers said to me, well, Mrs. Buhler, sometimes we're too busy. When there's a lot of calls coming in, we don't do it. Now there is no order takers anymore. It's just the iPad.
Yeah.
So,
but there's less touch points, but those touch points have to be so great. Again, when I was a kid growing through the park at 9 years old in Walt Disney World, I realized this, I think, here on this podcast, that's when I fell in love with hospitality, because I went to the gentleman picking up the trash and, with the little scooper, and we would always ask them, like, where's this, where's that? And they would always stop. They would always look you in the eye, and they would always show you the way. And they were the most trained people in the park.
Yes.
And I didn't learn until years later. That was my first introduction to real service, and that's where I fell in love with service, because I remember how that person made me feel every time I went to the park. And that's, how many times you walk down a hotel hallway and the housekeeper doesn't say hello to you?
Yes.
That might be the only person I see all day.
Yep.
Right. I train that, actually. And in my book, I tell a story about a order taker. She didn't know who I was, who I called in Vegas, actually at a property. And I called and I said, my throat's a little sore. I'm gonna get the chicken noodle soup. And she said, absolutely. Would you also like some tea with that? And I said, no, that's okay. And she said, okay. So I got my chicken noodle soup, and there was this envelope, and it was kind of lumpy on the tray. So I opened up the envelope, and it said, dear Ms. Buhler, I'm sorry you're not feeling well. I thought maybe you didn't want to pay for the tea. So here are a couple of tea bags. There's a hot water heater underneath the television said, "I hope you feel better."
Oh my goodness.
That made me cry.
Yeah,
Like, I was so touched. I was missing some kid's birthday. I had all these important things, that I couldn't do, and I felt lousy. And that this complete stranger took that moment is exactly what we travel for.
Mm-hmm. Right. And you can go, like me and Glenn, I have no idea where I am 90% of the time, but I can tell you, or where I was 2 days ago, but I can tell you probably 4 or 5 times this year where I received insane service. And I remember that moment, but I don't remember if I was traveling last week. I have no idea. Was I away last week on the plane? I don't remember. But what'll happen is, I had a really good, server. And I remember that moment. Don't remember where it was or what day it was, but I remember how I felt. And listen, but what do we do? So what do we do going forward? Things aren't going to get less expensive.
Correct.
AI is going to be there. Brands are training online. Basically, get in front of the computer for 40 hours.
Right.
Okay. The kids growing up 4 years old have an iPad and have a phone. So the communication, the ability to figure shit out is going to get worse. What do we do?
So first of all, the reason why I do what I do is because I still have tons of those moments you just talked about. And the reason why I cater to luxury crowd, it's not because I'm bougie. I do not come from tons of money, and I certainly did not grow up going to luxury hotels.
We already nicknamed you Miss Bougie. So
I would love that, actually. But the reason why I go to luxury hotels is because they still care. And I know there's pockets of economy hotels that do still care also.
Sure.
But luxury at least is forced to cater to people who will insist that they get them some modicum of service. And so I speak on this subject, but the thing that we need to do, in my view, is we need to continue to emphasize that people will forget how gold your lobby is. They won't forget the service. And so we need to learn how to have more strategic moments of wow and more little tiny hints of letting an employee be themselves. And the money does come. Isidore Sharp used to say, if you take care of the customers, the money will follow.
Yep.
And so we need to find a way to incorporate technology, but not let it overrun us.
But you just
the
said,
reason why
our employees be themselves.
Yes.
That's what I'm finding. And again, I go to a lot of hotels and I get good service. I get fine service most of the time, but it's very, it's very transactional. That's been my challenge, right? And that might be my next 20 years quest in life, to figure out how I can make the employees in the hotel be themselves and not be afraid. And that really comes down to ownership. And I think Mr. Rosen did an amazing job with that, right? We say he's the legend. He's been on our show a couple of times. And when he died, a whole legacy died with him. Right. And I just, he walked the walk, right? But a lot of owners don't.
I think there's being yourself, but we also need to teach. I don't know about you, but when I was a 21-year-old working in my first New York City hotel, I did a lot of dumb things, right? And it wasn't because I was stupid. It was because I had no life experience. So the training part in my company, Profitable to Train, is to teach people how to be strategic and how to read guests better. It's a combination of being yourself. Being yourself is just you confident and comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah.
And sometimes I talk to people that are unearthly, beautiful and young and have their whole futures in front of them, but they are so insecure because they don't know what they're doing. So what we do is we give the employees knowledge and strategy, and then absolutely they can put their own personality in. But I actually teach them, I want you to be yourself on the day you interviewed to get this job, not yourself on a day you're hungover and in a bad mood. I don't want your total honesty. I want your professionalism, right? Because let's face it, gentlemen, some days we're not actually at our best. And I always say to them, do you think I want to train every day? I don't. Some days I'm hungover. Some days my feet hurt from my high heels. but I'm still going to give you my best no matter what. That's what you have to learn.
But would you say, I don't want your honesty, I want your professionalism? It's so funny you said that, because I remember I always have a question. Tell me something. Listen, I always say we all got fired somewhere along the line. We all got fired.
Sure.
So tell me, that one time that you did something, or maybe you were treated unfairly, that you got fired. And this kid said, well, I took money out of my cash drawer. And they caught me. And they fired me because I had stolen the money. And I literally said, I didn't say this to him, but I wanted to scream, no!
You dumbass.
Don't tell me that.
Well, you did tell him to be honest, and the kid was honest.
And you know what? But I couldn't hire him.
Right. Well, and here's where you have to, now you've learned to caveat that with, so I can hire you, don't tell me about a crime.
Well, you know what it was? It was he borrowed, listen, when kids are making back in the day $12 an hour, he borrowed $100 to probably for whatever, a night out, and he was going to put it back on payday. You're not allowed to do that.
Of course
right?
not.
So he wasn't a thief, but just don't tell me that.
Well, this is why, I always like to harken back to my experience as a young person, because truly there's not a mistake somebody, could make that I probably didn't already do. But yeah, I tell them what they can and cannot share. Every once in a while I go, we're not going to talk about this today.
Funny how what's so common sense to us is not to others.
Common sense isn't common. No.
We definitely want you guys check this out. Inhospitable lessons learned from a lifetime in service. Look at you there before you learned all your lessons.
Dude, exactly.
Was that the Waldorf? Where were you?
That was at the Stanhope Hotel. Do you remember the Stanhope?
Of course I remember the Stanhope.
That's where I cut my teeth. I learned so much there.
Yeah, great hotel. Do you ever work at the Waldorf?
I have not. I didn't work at the Waldorf. And, I think Sam Ionides is at the Plaza right now. That's on my list too.
Oh, okay.
But I've worked pretty much up and down Fifth Avenue.
Yeah,
and,
so Essex House.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I worked at
Ritz.
Peninsula. Let's see, Carlisle, and then all of them as a consultant. I've worked in just about all.
The Mark.
Four Seasons, of course.
So let me ask you a question.
Sure.
I have a lot of friends that have run the best hotels in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Take that person,
Okay.
20 years ago when they were running the best hotels in the world, and take that person now who's still running the best hotels in the world. What's their mindset?
They are called a managing director instead of a GM because they're not in the lobby knowing what all the regulars order for drinks.
Okay.
They are managing their asset managers and they're managing their land leasers. However, the best clients I have sit with me to have a drink at the end of each day that I'm working with them and say, what are you seeing? And then they tell me what they're seeing. Yeah. And we partner, and they have their finger right on the pulse of what is new, and they want to be ahead of everyone else.
But you know what? It's interesting that you said that. And that's exactly what I see, right? And I thought you were going to use the word they're exhausted. Because
no.
in order to be able to do both of those things, be the old school GM that you used to be, but also be that caretaker for your asset manager, and also have your finger on the pulse. And they do.
Yes.
That's exhausting. However, when you're a freak, which at that level, you're a freak.
Yes.
You're not exhausted. You're motivated by that.
That's right. That's right. One of my great mentors who has passed away, but really somebody who I still try to live up to being, would say to me, he was one of my best clients in Vegas. And he would say to me, you made me $3 million on this project you did. If I did one extra thing, how much more money could I make? And I said, if you did this one change, hire 3 more front desk agents, I could pretty much guarantee you $2 million more a year. And he'd go, let's do it. So there's some people who think so small, they don't want to spend a nickel to make $500,000. But a lot of the people that I work with absolutely understand they have to invest in their property to see a return. Some of my favorite managing directors nowadays are ex-finance men. They're the ex accounting guys. And I think they're not afraid to make an investment. They always say to me, though, how much will this cost? How much will I make? What are the pitfalls?
Yep.
And at that level, the ownership went through such a search to find that person. There's one person, in the city right now opening one of the best hotels in the world that used to be at the Pierre. And,
yeah, they got 50 employees now.
A very good friend of mine.
I must text him every week saying, God, I love this.
Yeah.
He's a very good friend of mine.
For people that don't know, what's the name of the hotel?
Diana.
Yeah.
Diana.
Basically, the managing director gets on LinkedIn, and every time he has an employee, they all stand there, they take a picture, and they introduce him. And I think that's brilliant because if I was looking for a gig, I'd want to work there because it looks like fun, and it didn't even open its doors yet. And
when you look at what he did to the Pierre, you say, it all makes sense. He and I
so
are
at that level. A person at that level could literally go over and take over Pepsi-Cola as CEO. And that's what people don't understand. When you're functioning at that level, the people that you're dealing with, the employees you're dealing with, the owners of the building, because a lot of these owners are doing this because it's one of their toys, right?
Sure.
And so that's a whole different level of person you're dealing with because on the weekends they're calling you from their yacht. And then you're dealing with a clientele that probably is parked next to the owner of the hotel in his yacht, right?
Right.
So, and then you're dealing with whether it be unions or line employees, and then to try to get that level of service every day, 24 hours, 7, and then be a business person, it's almost a miracle.
It's a puzzle, and you've got to love puzzles, but also you've got to earn the trust of those owners.
Right.
That they say, okay, I've seen what he's done in the past. I believe in him. And so I'm going to let him run free. So you were saying, what are the good ones doing right now? And he is a good one, and his friend. But what are the good people doing right now? They have earned the right to have a little bit of trust and run free.
The greatest gift I ever got was from Miller Global, Dave Johnstone, Mr. Miller. And they said, don't ask for permission, don't ask for forgiveness. We trust you. Make decisions, break stuff, fix things, and make us money.
Yes.
And it was the greatest part of my career because we went insane. But they trusted us and they got a return on their investment threefold.
Yes. So I've got partners. I'll have a first-time client who the whole time I'm there, I won't see any managers. They'll treat me as an expensive babysitter. I'll train all the line staff. There'll be no backup. Nobody really wants to learn how the techniques are going to work in the future. And then they probably get so-so results.
Yeah, right.
But the partners that I have in this industry, and I mean, there's a dozen of them that are amazing. They want to know how it will work. They're involved. I say, if you don't get your managers to understand the techniques, then certainly why are you asking the line staff to do it?
Right.
And they also let me experiment. So again, a casino property I work with, they asked me to deal with a challenge. And I said, oh, this is a great challenge. I was so excited. I said, there's this methodology I have. It's worked plenty of times. I know it backwards, forwards, 250 person department, no problem. But this was a 1,100 person department. I said, I've never tried it on this scale before. They said, well, let's see. And of course it worked great. But they let you experiment, which is how you get better and how their property gets better.
And I'm sure you have clients that are great people. They pay their bills, but if they call you, you'll be like, yeah, no, thank you.
Sometimes I'm too busy, but
I don't know how you said that. See, that's 5-star service.
Yeah.
you didn't take my bait. He was like, sometimes I'm too busy.
Well, the only way that you want to work at this level is when you work with somebody who you both make each other look good, right, and you both follow through. So anybody who follows through, that's my focus, right? That's who I want around, and that's who I want to put my name next to.
Right. And you're both sitting there at the table and you saw something wrong at the same time and you're both freaking out at the same time going, did you see that?
Right. Well, we just say, how are we going to fix this very quietly?
I remember I was having dinner with Mr. Long, Eric Long at the Waldorf, and who's one of my mentors. And he said, see that gentleman over there? I go, yeah, here you go. I pay him a lot of money. I go, he's having dinner. And he's like, no, he's my secret shopper.
Yes.
He works for us 5 days a week. He works for us 10 hours a day, and he goes to every one of our events. He goes to every one of our dinners.
Amazing.
And I was like, but don't people know him? It's like, it doesn't matter. They still make mistakes, and they still get it wrong. And he sees everything.
Yeah, I've been a professional evaluator for quite some time. And if I know that they know it's me, I start evaluating the table next to me. But it was really funny. I was recently at a resort and I was doing a shop, and they knew it was me, and they gave me this beautiful VIP cabana, $2,000 a day deal. And I'm in the cabana and they're running food to me and tripping all over me. And this tiny, skinny man, this guy who he'd been out in the sun too long with his little unikini, he comes out and he goes, "Do you have a sandwich? Are you getting a sandwich?" And he was an actual guest. He looked like a little skeleton, a little tan skeleton. And I said, "Oh," he goes, "Are you someone important?" I said, "I am the opposite of anyone important, but I'll get you a sandwich." I said, "Please feed this man next door. This is just sad now."
Get him a sandwich.
That's hysterical. Well, it sounds like, Kate, while you're getting them a sandwich, the team should have gotten inhospitable. Lessons learned for lifetime service. Now at Amazon.com, wherever finer books are sold. Kate, how can we learn more about your business before we let you go?
Absolutely. So first of all, this was a delight, gentlemen. It's nice to hear somebody else carrying the flag, trying to get this beautiful industry to stay strong. You can reach me anytime. I am on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I have a website. It is called profitable2train.com. And if you Google me, I'm easily found. And again, do read the book and see what you think.
So stay in the green room. I want to get your cell number.
Yeah. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being here, Kate. Thanks to all of you folks out there for watching. So many things in here. You're going to want to re-watch this. Be sure to check us out on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all the places where you like to hang out. We'll see you back next time on another episode of No Vacancy Live. And until then, remember, you've got one life, so blaze on and
be kind to yourself.
See you later.
And Glenn, can you let me get a word?